So there's a deep flaw with, well, there's several deep flaws with the US system. And one of those is that the president can pardon himself and also can direct the Department of Justice to drop investigations into himself. Now, that only applies to federal cases. So, two of the most serious cases are federal. And if Trump were to win before those cases were resolved, he could simply make them go away.
Now let's speak with Brian Klass. He's Associate Professor in Global Politics at UCL in London. He's also the author of Fluke, Chance, Chaos and Why Everything We Do Matters. And Brian is somebody who I spent a lot of time. We had a show on CNN many years ago, in fact, just after Trump got elected. So Brian is somebody who has studied Donald Trump very closely. Brian, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on again.
First of all, just your reaction, and also what do you think this is going to mean for the election?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is rule of law reasserting itself and accountability finally catching up with Trump. The evidence in this case was overwhelming. It's also one of many felony cases that are upcoming. There's still three to be resolved, so it may not be the end of Trump's criminal liability. And I think it's extraordinary that you have potential viability. To get to your second question, he remains a potentially viable candidate despite being a felon, being found liable for sexual assault, being banned from doing business in New York, having incited the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, and also tried to overturn a Democratic election. Despite all of those things, this is still probably going to be a relatively close race. I think what the impact on the race will be in the short term is this will further fire up his diehard base. He'll get a lot of money from it, and they will love him even more and see him even more as a victim. But it will not help him with the key swing voters in the states that will decide the election. I think this is a net negative for him because the average undecided voter does not look at 34 felony charges being found guilty and say, well, that makes me more likely to vote for him. So, other than the diehards, I think this is bad news for Donald Trump.
And just tell us, who are those swing voters? What's their kind of, where are they located? Are they men? Are they women? What's their kind of racial background? Who are these swing voters?
Yeah, it's an extraordinary thing to imagine that in 2024 somebody has not made their mind up about Donald Trump. But there are people out there who are like that. And basically this election is going to be decided in probably 6 or 7 swing states. So those are the ones that matter. We know that, for example, California will vote for Joe Biden. We know that a red state like Texas or Alabama will vote for Trump. So we're sort of looking at these states in the middle. And the demographics are all over the map. I mean, it's just basically mostly politically relatively apathetic voters are more likely to be in the middle. So people who are not paying attention, not politically diehard types. And so they stretch across the spectrum. I mean, among women, it's probably very good news for Joe Biden to have undecideds in that group because abortion politics cuts very strongly in the Democrats' favor this year. But the breakdowns in the electorate, basically Trump's base is largely men, and Biden's base is largely women, particularly minorities and younger people. So these are not 60% I'm talking about in terms of populations and so on. It's not like 90% for each group, but it is going to be decided by tens of thousands of people in these swing states most likely, and that's it.
And look, if Donald Trump does win the election, what do these convictions, or if he is, and if look, so let's say the January the 6th case, which is a really serious case. This is about the insurrection on January the 6th. If he wins, would that case take place after he becomes president? Will the Supreme Court, which is kind of stacked in favor of Donald Trump because he put judges in there that support him, are they going to say that he'll have presidential immunity?
Yeah, so there's a deep flaw with, well, there's several deep flaws with the US system. And one of those is that the president can pardon himself and also can direct the Department of Justice to drop investigations into himself. Now, that only applies to federal cases. So, two of the most serious cases are federal. And if Trump were to win before those cases were resolved, he could simply make them go away. He could order the Department of Justice to drop the investigations, or he could pardon himself, or both. However, this case, the one of Stormy Daniels, as well as the one in Georgia, which is also about his attempts to overturn the election, we have audio of him asking an election official to find 11,000 votes for him to win. those cases are outside the jurisdiction of the federal government, and he can't do anything about them. So it is, he will still be a felon. He cannot pardon himself on this trial. And as long as the appeals process doesn't get reversed, he will remain a felon as president. And the Georgia case, he can't make go away either.
Although
However,
we've just been hearing that the judge has been is quite as an appointee, is she not?
so this is for, yes, indeed, and this is one of the problems as well, is that Trump appointed this person who had very limited experience as a judge, and is now overseeing one of the most consequential cases that exists. And that case is actually the one around the documents trial. So this it's difficult to keep
Yeah.
all of these intact and sort of separate. But that's the trial where Trump took classified documents and brought them to his private club, and then you can't make this stuff up. Literally had nuclear secrets and so on displayed in boxes on a stage and in a bathroom. And this case is also very serious, but it is being slow walked by the
Okay.
judge, who is taking a very long time to rule on everything.
And look, Brian, let's just look at the sort of special relationship impact of this. We have our election on the 4th of July. As you know, the American election is on the 5th of November. If Donald Trump wins, he's now a convicted felon, if his appeal isn't successful, how, let's say it is Keir Starmer who wins the election, obviously there's a long way to go. How is a Keir Starmer government going to navigate doing business with Trump, particularly now that he's a convicted felon?
Well, I think that they're going to have to still understand that they're grappling with the most powerful country in the world, and I think Keir Starmer will recognize this. So there will be the relationship between the individuals, which does matter. Individual relations between heads of state and heads of government matter. But you have, a situation where Britain needs the U.S. and the U.S. needs Britain, and so I suspect that regardless of what happens, the relationship will survive. I don't think that Trump has any sort of goodwill towards the United Kingdom, and so I don't expect that it will be good for relations. But there are so many shared
Yeah.
interests that I think that the special relationship will persist.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, great to catch up with you as ever. That's Brian Klass, who is Associate Professor in Global Politics at UCL.